Hello. We're going to discuss the Dexter episode, Slack Tide. That's Dexter, that's season 4, episode 7, Slack Tide, okay? And the reason we're going to discuss this is because there are secrets in Hollywood that Hollywood uses when they write scripts and when the people who do the images and put in the picture part, like the scenes, okay? What they use is an ancient images that come from before Babylon and have been used all throughout the ages, and they've been used by religions, and they've been used by theater and plays and pictures since the beginning of human history. They're very ancient, and these images are used now in advertising, commercials, sitcoms, plays, films, movies, in paintings, again, in everything that has anything to do with trying to affect society in general. And because these are deeply powerful images and deeply moving images, and they're used over and over with variations on a theme, but they use them over and over, and they work. And that's the reason they use them over and over, because they do work. So we're going to go over this Dexter episode because I studied the lunar mansions. It's the lunar mansions from the Arabian astrology, from Arabic astrology, and the lunar mansions that are ancient, and they're used also in Western astrology, but they come from Arabic sources. And I did notice the use of lunar mansion in the modern system. It's number 24, lunar mansion number 24. There's 28 lunar mansions that coincide with the 28 days of the moon and the 28 days of a woman's blood moon cycle as well. So it has to do with the woman's cycle and the moon cycle. Very powerful. Therefore, this is the 24th mansion in the modern system. Now, there's some very ancient systems where the mansions are called manzils, and in that system, it may have a different number designation. Nevertheless, in the modern system, it's number 24. Now, this lunar mansion is called the Star of Fortune. Again, number 24, called the Star of Fortune. And it's considered to be, by some astrologers, the luckiest of the lucky. And it is also the placement of the stars that are in this lunar mansion and that designate and indicate this lunar mansion are from the tail of Capricorn the goat to the shoulder of Aquarius the water bear, sort of stars that are in between those two, from the tail of the goat and in the shoulder of Aquarius, and in between those two. So there's 12 signs of the zodiac, but there's 28 mansions. So some of these are in a cusp, like this one, between Capricorn and Aquarius, and some are in various portions in the beginning, middle, or end of a sign. So this one is what we're focusing on in this particular presentation. Because when I watched this Dexter episode, I recognized this mansion was being used throughout this episode. Slack Tide episode. It's season 4, episode 7. All right. Now, what this mansion does is it is something where they use the image of a woman breastfeeding to cause their group or their organization or their group or their religion or their flock or their herd to swell in numbers and to grow a multitude. Okay? So say you're running a church. Okay? What they would do in the ancient times is they would take a horn from a male sheep or ram, and they would take it from a ram that was not able to mate, one that was not able to procreate. And then they would take that horn and they would carve the image in it of a woman breastfeeding. And then they would hang it around the neck of a sheep that could mate, a fertile sheep. The image of one that is not able to mate around the neck of one that can mate, and the herd would swell. Okay? So it could be a mother breastfeeding. Perhaps if you're using it for sheep, you'd use a sheep mother breastfeeding, with her children. Okay? Or for a human, you would use something like the image of a eunuch being sacrificed, like Jesus, who didn't have children or a wife, didn't procreate. And you take his image of him being sacrificed on the cross, and you hang around the neck of a person that can mate and is fertile, and then your church swells. Sound familiar? Like in the Christian Orthodox or Catholic churches, that's what they do. These are ancient symbols. And you can use variations on a theme, and it doesn't always have to be precise. And in fact, the more it's not precise, the more it works. Okay? Therefore, I'd like to mention how they used it in this Dexter episode, and it was brilliant. And whoever did this imagery and put it into this episode, they were brilliant. It's just so intelligent, the way they did this. Now, the first thing they did in this episode was they had Dexter find, I believe it was Dexter or somebody that worked with him, find a lady's arm inside an alligator that this lady had been, her arm had been swallowed by an alligator or a crocodile of some kind. And so it was just cut open, and there was a arm inside there. Okay? That's the horn that is taken from the one that is not able to mate and given to the one that is able to mate. And it's given, it's about Dexter having a child. Okay? So that's how it begins. You wouldn't necessarily think that's what that was about just from that one scene, but when it continues and it develops, and you see it is about this mansion, and that is what they're doing. And that was the horn or the sacrifice, like Jesus being sacrificed, the eunuch being sacrificed, the one horn, or with this woman, the one arm of someone being sacrificed that was maybe not able to mate, and sacrificed by the crocodile, and then given to Dexter, and he studies it, and then of course, then he's able to mate. It's about his fertility. And of course, what's it about? It's about swelling the numbers of people that watch the show Dexter, of which I'm one of them, and it's a great show. So, how does this proceed? Okay, the next thing you have to do, and I'm going to show you here, I have this picture of Mary breastfeeding her child. Okay? Okay, we have Jesus, the one that was sacrificed, and then Mary breastfeeding Jesus, breastfeeding her child. Okay, see? See how it works? It's the same thing. Now, what we have is in that scene, in Dexter, there's a scene where Dexter is holding his son, Harrison, and he has a bottle lying in his arm, and that bottle's nipple is pointed towards Harrison, his son, and he's like the mother breastfeeding his child. So you see, you can use a man, too. Okay? And they use that. Okay? The reason I knew for sure they were using this mansion, the Star of Fortune, or also called the luckiest of the lucky, is because there was another scene where they were in a bar and they were, investigating these murders and everything, where they have this woman facing this guy, and she's sort of on her knees and on his lap, sort of, and she's like this topless dancer, and this guy that's like her client or whatever is underneath her a little bit, and he's actually breastfeeding from her. Okay, and you wouldn't think of it being a holy icon like this, but it's the same thing. See, variations on a theme, because this woman is breastfeeding this male, and it's in a strip club, and it seems like it's the harlot instead of the virgin. Nevertheless, it is the same image. Variations on a theme. Still a woman breastfeeding a male. It's still that. And what does that do? It makes the multitude swell. So all the people that watch Dexter, it swells the numbers of his audience. It swells the numbers, especially when you have Dexter breastfeeding Harrison with a bottle with the nipple pointing towards his baby's mouth. Okay? That's the way it works. And they tell you that these images are evil or whatever. So you have these guys that make videos about the ancient goddess Semiramis feeding her son god, the sun Tammuz, or Isis, the goddess, feeding her sun god child Horus, breastfeeding. They say, these are evil images, don't use them. Well, you know, just wear your cross. And don't wear the cross with Jesus, just wear the cross. So what happens? They're showing you that image, even though they're saying it's evil. They're showing you that image and their audience swells, while meantime, you don't use that image, you just use a cross, and your images and the images you use are just, it doesn't have a sacrifice of a man, or it doesn't have the breastfeeding in it. So what happens is your numbers go down because you think it's evil and you don't use it. That's how it works. That's how they get their numbers to go up and your numbers to go down. So be smart. Either understand it. Of course it's not evil for a mother to breastfeed her child. Of course it's not evil for a society like Egyptians or like Sumerians or Mesopotamians to use their mother goddesses feeding their children. Of course that's not evil. Of course that's all good, and the luckiest of the lucky, and the great star of fortune that brings you great fortune. But if you have to say it's evil because you just don't want to admit that Christianity is not the only religion on the planet, or that the Jewish God is not the only God on the planet, that other people are allowed to have their cultures too, then you can say it's evil, but you can still use it to your advantage. But be smart. But understand that we're going to educate people that it's okay to love your own people and your own tribe and your own culture. And Dexter's a great show. All right? So we want to show you some more information about this mansion. And now that I've explained it to you, I'm going to give you the information from this mansion. Okay. So when Luna, or the moon, is voyaging from the tail of Capricorn to the shoulder of Aquarius, married couples and military personnel have good fortune and privilege, while the execution of governments and their policies will be blocked from moving forward. Now, if you want those things to happen, you move in such a way where you show pictures of those things, okay? Now, otherwise, use the picture, because this is a traditional picture, use the picture or figure of a human mother breastfeeding her baby, for this causes the swelling, growth, and fruitfulness of flocks, herds, groups, and organizations. Ask the Lord of this mansion to increase your flock while using this image of the woman suckling her infant. Okay? And he will help you. Ancients used to cut off one of the horns of a male sheep that had been neutered, and after washing it, use this horn to create the icon of a woman suckling her baby in her arms. In reality, this is where the story of using an emasculated man such as Jesus the Nazarene, who was without wife or children, was said to be sacrificed, so that the image of his mother breastfeeding him when he was an infant could be worn around the neck of groups of his followers, and this image would swell and multiply the church's flock. From the star of fortune and the constellation of Capricorn the goat, from the tail of the goat to the shoulder of Aquarius, with lunar angel Abrinael and Lord Abrine. You would ask Lord Abrine to swell your flocks while showing the image of a mother breastfeeding, or angel, you could ask Angel Abrinael or Lord Abrine when you're showing the image of a mother breastfeeding her baby, and that will cause your audience, your numbers, your groups to flourish. You have to keep doing it, and it does work. You have to be consistent, and it will work for you. Thank you.